Triple Threat is coming out as a cinema release. What are the major standout features to the film that sort of warrant it being a cinema thing rather than any other route of delivery?
I'd like to think there's a lot of reasons that make it stand out, but in purely sort of pragmatic and sort of very, very basic terms, you've got a film here with probably if we talk about it in musical number terms, you've got a film here with 9 of the best dancers, film dancers alive and working of this generation, and it's very rare that you get 2 or 3 of them together, let alone sort of 8 or 9 of them all on camera at one time. My job was to frame that in a manner that allowed the audience to see as much of what these guys can do physically, without visual effects, without wires, without stunt doubles as possible. And I think that in and of itself is the primary reason, the sort of visceral kind of action-packed reason why most people are going to want to see this in the theatre. Now, beyond that, I just feel it's a lot better way to see a movie, to enjoy it, the immersive, there's so many distractions when you watch a film at home, from cell phone ringing to sort of going to the kitchen to make yourself some popcorn to sort of just channel surfing other things going on, which disturb the overall sort of experience of seeing a film. So I always recommend seeing them in the theatre. But beyond all of those kind of things, it's just a really, really rare opportunity to see some of the best practitioners of their arts all working together, and they work off each other. If you think of it in jazz terms, the only thing better than a solo performance is when you get 2 people playing together and they play against each other and their game rises. Well, if you imagine, we've got, as I say, 8 or 9, 6 of the very best, and then 8 or 9 on top of that of the sort of very, very best dancers in the game, all working together and all raising their game together. And it's a really, really exciting opportunity to sort of see something you don't see very often,
Well, that's one of the things I liked about it is I think you do have a very cinematic way of the way you draw your films and the way you create them. So I can see why it is very, very worthy of seeing in the cinema. Speaking of your ensemble cast of all the top martial artists, how difficult was it to bring all of those guys together? Because I imagine everyone's got different schedules and everyone's all over the place. How difficult was it to get everyone to come on board? Did everyone just pile in and say, yes, count me in, and that was it? Or was it a process of juggling schedules and so forth?
It's very, very wise and knowing question, that one. It was extraordinarily difficult. We had a short schedule, which meant that everyone had to be available at the same, in the same period, and they weren't. Everyone had jobs. They're all very, very busy guys. So we had to mesh our shooting schedule with their work schedules, and it was hair raising. It meant sort of being, shooting the film completely out of order, as most films are shot anyway. But some of these big sequences where we had the 8 actors all together. There's actually 9 actors in the opening sequence. They had to be shot. All of those big ensemble moments had to be shot, over a period of about a week, and then, as we went off and shot the individuals beyond that, it was everyone committed enormously to it. Scott Adkins, I think, ended up staying an extra 2 weeks pro bono, just so that he could make his fight scene even better. I mean, it was a labour of love for all these guys. I think all of them got into it not really knowing 100% about what it was they were getting involved in. And the moment they hit the ground in Bangkok, they sort of got a taste of how committed everyone was, how much fun it was going to be, and how seriously, as a movie, we're all taking it. Because, there's a lot of films made at the moment which are simply made as product for the international market. And these guys that we had, they go from movie to movie. But when they cottoned on to how committed we were to making the very, very best film, everyone sort of, started to invest more, and it shows on screen. I mean, there's some really brilliant performance stuff in there, and everyone is enjoying themselves. And I think everyone had a hand in creating their characters well, not in a way that, there was no script and they just sort of turned up and invented it, of course, but but took the script and went further and added their thumbprints to it, and we encouraged that. It was almost impossible to for one person to really know how to give individual idiosyncrasies to all of these characters. So there's a tremendous amount of each actor in his character that he plays in terms of how much they invented and were allowed to sort of freestyle. And I'm really proud of them. I thought they did great. Scott and Michael Jaa White did some fantastic works, script writing, tweaking. Iko, we came up with an enormous amount of his stuff, with Iko out there, and his subplot and everything was very much born of meeting Iko and his ideas. Tony Jaa obviously has a very, very unique style, and that was born out of sort of Tony and I working together on set. So it was what you're seeing here is, I think, a unique glimpse of all these guys working together. I don't know if there'll ever be anything like it again, so.
It does come across as a very unique film because it is such a huge cast of the best martial artists currently going, and they're all in one film, and they all get a chance to shine, and they do bring different bits to the party. Everyone's got a different character that complements. So I think it was a proper roller coaster, rip-roaring view. So thank you for creating it and masterminding it all. What was it like when you said they all brought their different bits to their roles? Was there a point where you had everyone sit down and rehearse everything together and do a read, or is it not like that? It was just...
it is like that on most movies. On this one, just because of the sheer size of the cast and the sort of scheduling. I mean, we had a couple of the actors turned up the night before we went into the jungle. Which was the opening of the movie, was the big jungle sequence, which was 3 hours north of Bangkok, and on the banks of the River Kwai. It was a very, very remote and very hot and humid and sort of not dangerous. I'm not going to go that far, but it was certainly unpleasant in certain degrees. And that was their first day on the set of Triple Threat, their first experience with me. So with other ones, I had a chance to chat with them a little bit beforehand. Iko, Tiger, and Tony, we met before and went to dinner, and it was less about them giving their input at that point than it was just seeing a little bit about what they were like as characters, which is what I try to do as much as possible when I'm directing, is get to know the actor a little bit, not socially. I don't want to see him get drunk or anything like that, but I just want to know how they are and how they solve problems and whether they use humor and those sort of things, or just idiosyncrasies, you might say, and you then bring what they feel passionate about, what they don't care about, things that make them angry, and these are things that you can then weave into the character that they're playing. It's familiar.
Cool. We had a bit of drop out there as well, but I can skillfully edit that together to make it sound contiguous.
Maybe sound intelligent and smart.
Well, you're doing that very well for yourself, so there's no need for me to do anything. And what could I do anyway? So then the other question. It's a stupid question because I know what the answer is going to be, but did everyone get on fairly well? So they've got lots of very big, well-known stars in their own right. Was there anyone doing that? Hang on, no, I can't lose, I've got to do this. But any of that ego sort of bollocks, or not really?
It's a brilliant question and a very good one, not stupid at all. My bread and butter has been these kind of movies, going right back to as a stunt performer. As a PA, I started on Mortal Kombat. That's where I met Dominic Vandenberg, my pal that's worked with me over the years. So I have martial arts movies, as much as they may frustrate me at times and annoy me, and there's so many bad ones that make me angry that they're just purely terrible. But my path and the path of martial arts movies since Mortal Kombat has definitely sort of entwined. So there is always that fear of having ego on set amongst these guys, because they train very, very hard. Actors train hard, but martial arts actors train hard in martial arts, often in combative sports, in sports where you are, mano against mano, and they a lot of them are very tough, and they've won themselves black belts and and tournaments and competitions, and they have a particular opinion of themselves, and you do often run into ego. On Triple Threat, there was no ego. Not amongst the 9 guys, and I'd like to take full credit for it. That would be horseshit for me to do that. But full credit, in my opinion, and he will say it doesn't and has nothing to do with it, the full credit for the fact that there was no ego on set goes to Michael Bisping. He's a very, very funny guy, but he's also the most dangerous guy on the movie set, and he didn't allow any ego whatsoever. So cats that might have maybe potentially in the past or on other movie sets have given a little bit of sort of a pushback, and I wouldn't really lose this in real. You have Bisping there, and he snaps everyone to attention, and everyone's laughing and joking, and it became very, very easy going, the atmosphere, and I'll be indebted to him forever for that one. It made shooting really pleasant, really quick. The guys are all great fun. I don't think we used our actor trailers, very much at all. I think the crew, the cast basically had their set chairs, and that was basically it. They hung around on set in a circle, telling stories and laughing and joking. And it was a fantastic, fantastic atmosphere. Sometimes it was to do with the film and what they could do within the movie, but often it was very raucous. And I think Jeenja, who felt a little out of place for the first day or two, by the second day, I think someone had grabbed her by the shoulder and pulled her into the ring, and she was being made part of the joking story. And it was a really wonderful, inclusive atmosphere, very safe, very good-natured, and I think everyone had a lot of fun, and I think it's very, very important when you're a long way from home and you have a lot of potential egos. And it was very hot, it was very humid. The food is a little strange. It's not. There's a lot of unfamiliar things that could be difficult, and because of Michael Bisping basically just causing everyone to be on the same wavelength, we all got along. And it was all seen with a sense of humour, and I think it was one of the most joyful shoots I've ever been on. Really, really a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
And people got down and did the work, did their own stunts, did their own fight scenes, took bruises, bumps, injuries, and wrapped them up. Everyone had a feeling of it being something a little special, which is really, really good. It's and it's not always like that. It really isn't. As much as people would like to say that, a lot for them it's very much coming in to make a paycheck, and they're going to be out in 72 hours, and really you get them, you get 72 hours worth of their focus. On this one, it really felt like everyone was committed as body and soul to it. I didn't feel at any point, and I honestly feel everyone was very upset when they had to leave. It was really poignant.
That's an impressive set to have been running. I was also about to say that Michael Bisping, I think, comes across a really good character. He's he brings a different level to the whole thing. I thought he might just be a UFC guy who came in and did something for his name, but he actually can act and did bring a bit of character to it that he otherwise wouldn't have had. He was a wise call and a good one.
Yeah, he worked very, very hard. I think Scott worked very hard. I think the two of them were great as brothers and arguing. I think it was particularly ballsy of Scott to swear at him and get in his face like that. I said afterwards, interesting that going for him like that, because it got quite violent each time. He said, "Well, I'm a faster runner than Bisping. I can make But we didn't have to test out. Everyone was very, very in the moment and understood it was a movie. But it was there were some brilliant, brilliant moments in there.
Having said that, you said everyone got on very well and they had a great time in the jungle. Speaking to Michael J. White last week, he said we had a great time in the jungle. Although when we did there were some pieces that you made them do over and over and over and over and over again, and he, along with everyone else, got to the point where they wanted to kill you. Were you aware that was on the cards?
No, I never knew that. I mean, the jungle is it's an interesting place. You have to, it's tough going. It's very, very humid. It's very hot. You only have a few hours of daylight because of the thick, canopy over everything. So the pressure is on. And what I think a lot of people didn't realize on this one was that if you do coverage on a film with 2 or 3 actors, that's 2 or 3 close-ups and a wide angle. Maybe you'll throw a medium in there as well. So 5 setups and you're out. Each setup takes about 45 minutes. I had scenes with 9 actors. And to get the coverage on those 9 actors, it doesn't matter if you're, a shot is roughly 35 to 45 minutes. You've got 150 crew. It doesn't move quickly. You've got a small space, so you've only got enough room for 1 or 2 cameras. So literally, you are moving at 40, your basic shot coverage now has tripled in many cases. So I'm sure it wore them out. But yeah, that was one of the scenes with all of the actors requiring coverage. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough going. But I don't think anyone in the movie wants to kill me at this point. So
also, you survived. So they clearly.
They were very good about hiding their feelings, which is good, and testament to their
Maybe Michael was just saying it for effect, but he did say it with a wry smile.
I believe him.
He also said that obviously he's used to grow up in the US and suddenly there being in the jungle, used to working on sets, and said he couldn't quite work out. There was 3 guys in some yellowy orange suits, with each had 2 sets of them with vans, who just hung around every time you're in the jungle, and he presumed they were there for safety or health or something or other, but he never quite knew what it was, apart from he presumed it was bugs or snakes. Were they there for health and safety, or what, do you have any insight into what they were doing?
If they were there for the bugs and snakes, they weren't doing a very good job. If you looked at the floor for more than 2 minutes, you suddenly noticed everything was moving. I was the only guy on the set that turned up with shorts on, and all of the Thai crew turned up with long pants and boots on it. So by the end of the day, your legs are scarred up and bites, and I absolutely love all that kind of stuff. That fuels the creative juices, No, I've no idea. I miss an awful lot. When you're directing, you're focused on the actors, you're focused on telling the story, you're focused on moving the camera. A lot of things like guys in orange suits, I don't notice. But we're on an elephant reserve, so perhaps there was something to do with the elephants. It was a.
I think the snakes, one of the bug sounds are much groovier. Sort of, it ups it more. It's like that's what Michael J. White was sure they were there for. He said he didn't want to know anymore. He just knew they were there, and that was all he needed to know. It helped his performance, perhaps. I don't know.
I think it was, as I say, it was the first week of filming that we went to the jungle, and a lot of the guys were very surprised by the immersive nature of it. They're thick. I had to find this, the tiger stripe camouflage, which is a particular style that I like. We had to find, and they wore this stuff with full fatigue gear, and it was very, very hot. The humidity was off the charts, so these guys were. It was a brutal awakening. There was a lot of sweating going on. They were just drenched within 15 minutes of putting the wardrobe on. But it looks great. That's the nature of it. You don't, you're watching a movie. It looks
real. It looks real. You're there.
Yeah.
For the experience for you, was it sort of one thing else that Michael J. White picked up on is it was a lovely experience with the Thai crew. They all just wanted to do work and they smiled and enjoyed it. Was that as grueling as it was? Was it a different experience for you shooting there as opposed to elsewhere?
It's my third movie in Thailand. Second as a director. I did Cutthroat Island with Rennie Harlin as a stuntman. I directed Fifth Commandment with Rick Yoon in Bangkok, and then this was so I knew what to expect going in. You have a lot of people on a Thai crew. You've got 150 or 200 people on the crew. You have to be very, very clear with what you want. There's a way of dealing with people in foreign locales where you earn their respect and you don't act like the imperialist sort of dictator coming in, and you throw ideas at them, you question at them, and you use their ideas and you make them a part of your team. And I loved working with them. They're very, very smart. They're, their filmmaking standard is up to, the best of the US and the best of the UK. And I had a wonderful time working with them. I found them very creative, very helpful, and very imaginative. The production design was brilliant for this movie. Really, really inspired, and how they did it in the time and built it for the money, I've no idea. It was a very, very exciting process working with these guys. There was a moment with the AD where I think, it's in the first week, probably in the jungle, where we were looking at a sequence, and I frankly didn't know quite what to do, and I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Well, if I were doing this," and remember, this is their top AD in Thailand, Charlie Sungkwas. He's 70 years old or so, and he said, "Well, if I were directing, I'd do it this way." And I said, "Well, that's the way we're going to do it. That's a great idea." And I think from that point on, you have them very much, working with you as friends, and as collaborators. And the key with any crew, not just a foreign crew, a Thai crew, is to make them collaborators, to make them want to be, involved in the picture. I prefer it that way, and I hire the very, very best people that I can find to work around me. And in Thailand, it was no different. We were very careful about whom we hired. I had great mentorship through Mike Selby, who is the Thai producer, who's actually originally from New Jersey. So he knew everyone, knew who to trust, who not to trust, and was absolutely key in making the film as good as it is.
Well, it comes through because it does look fantastic. So
thank you very
nice
much.
one, well worth it. Most of the films you've done, or all the films you've done, you've written or been a part of the creating process. With Triple Threat, you didn't. It was a script that was provided. How did you become involved, and how did that happen, and what did it feel like?
It's about 50-50. Some I've written or co-written, and some I've taken on, fully original scripts like Accident Man, and sort of worked in a little bit. But I mean, when you start directing, you have to disassociate yourself from any kind of ego over who wrote it or who didn't write it. The script is your blueprint. It is where you start from. You all agree to do that. The actors agree to do that when they were hired on. But then at each step of the way, you have to question what it is you're doing. You have to look at it very conscientiously, and with your cast. And certain things may not work as they had originally been intended to work. So you have to be ready to look at that and change it. But you also have to have the smarts to know when not to change anything, because it was perfect as written. So it's a case of adjudication as you go through, and it can't be ego based. It has to be very, very pragmatism based. It has to be based upon what's going to be best for the picture, what you have in terms of money. You may get to a point in the schedule where 400 extras are called for, and you've for some reason your producer has run out of money, and you've got 3 extras that day. So you have to work out, it's going to require a little rewriting to make that work, and that's a very obvious and silly example, but that's the kind of thing you're sort of dealing with, especially on films that aren't quite as huge a budget as the next Marvel film, where everything's can be laid out. But even on those ones, it usually isn't. But on Triple Threat, we had to be ready to sort of freestyle like a jazz musician every day. I would work on the script, the shot list at night, the night before. I'd get to set early. I'd walk it with the keys, and we based on the location and what we're doing, we would continuously be inventing right to the last minute. And I think that's a super exciting way of making a movie. It's really, really fun. It's nerve-wracking, and you, as I said before, you require really, really good people around you, very creative people. But on this one, it was absolutely 100% necessary because, as I say, no writer would know the idiosyncrasies of our 7 leads, if you include Celina, without actually having met them. And we didn't have those actors when we got the script initially. So it had, by nature, by virtue of what it was, the project, it had to be continuously evolving. I think I have to say that Celina Jade was phenomenal with her character. She basically wrote all of the dialogue that you hear her say in the movie, or rewrote it, took it and worked it. And she'd come to me in the morning and say, I was having a little think about this. I've got some notes here. Have a look at these. And I'd say, yeah, that's perfect. That's much better than we have. We're going to go with that. And that was very much how that worked with her. Scott did that as well. We brought in Stu Small to redo his. As I say, you just choose the very, very best collaborators, and swing as hard as you can, and just keep focusing on everything as you go along and trying to make it as good as possible.
So do you not have a sort of it's storyboarded all the way through? You just working from a script your night before thing, and then just work it through.
That's true. It's true and it's not true. I don't storyboard anything other than very, very key action and visual effects stuff. It's too limiting, and it's not for me. I shot list the whole movie, which means describing the shots, sometimes drawing overheads. And so the whole movie is shot listed in pre-production. It's an 80-page book, which is photocopied and given to everyone on the set. Everyone who gets a script gets a shot list afterwards. So, the AD then breaks the shot list down into schedule, or shot list is going to be what we're going to attempt to get that day. At that point, I take that, and then the night before, while we're working, there'll be a definitive list which is distributed in the morning of the shoot day, which usually is not that different, but some days it's very, very different, based on how fast we're going, what happened to that character, where the development's gone, what I know we can get, what might not be possible, last minute thoughts. So it's pretty organized, but it allows you the freedom to improvise in a way that is, understandable and people get it, On this one, I kept adding shots, so they had a nickname for me on the Thai crew, which they didn't tell me till about midway through. At the end of every day, he would say a word which was quite, which would cause the Thai crew to, towards the end of the day, which would cause the Thai crew to laugh. And it was when I asked him, it was bean sprout, meaning that I kept coming up with bean sprout ideas at the end of the day, which would make the rap time just a little bit later. So he was using humor to keep the crew in good spirits about having to go for another half an hour or 40 minutes, which I appreciate and I get. So I encourage that,
Bean sprouts are good to eat and they're healthy, and who doesn't enjoy a good bean sprout? Oh.
Exactly. They have a great sense of humour over there, and it is really fun working with them,
One thing I did think about watching it is that it sidesteps the usual goodies and baddies and the racial stereotypes, because it's set in a very Southeast Asian somewhere town, and the story is very much centred around Southeast Asia and what's happening there. Without sort of giving too much away, the baddies may not be the goodies and the goodies may not be the... You're not quite sure who's who until things begin to settle down. Was that a sort of intentional idea, just to slightly sort of change and upend the expectations of that sort of Hitman Abroad type film?
The status quo. Yeah,
yes.
I think so. I think that's what we were trying to do. I mean, honestly, I hadn't really thought too much about that. I was just trying to find the coolest story possible out of that. And I've got to tell you, honestly, a lot of people have said, oh, it's great that you've got the Asians playing the good guys and the Westerners playing the bad guys, but none of that really ever triggers it. You have to go into these things without thinking about race or stereotypes, any of that sort of horseshit. It's not storytelling. And story works or it doesn't work. I suppose if you're dealing with something set in the Deep South, then it's a fundamentally avoidable sort of part of your storytelling process. But making an action movie, it shouldn't have to rely on that. It's the good guys are the good guys. They're as written, and they're cool cats, and the bad guys are they don't think that they're bad guys. They think they're doing good. At their heart, they think they're doing a job and doing it well. They've just become so disassociated with using their moral code that they're a bit turned upside down. That's how I like to think of them. In their heart of hearts, they're just doing a solid professional job. But I mean, we had Jeenja in amongst the bad guys, so we had one Asian bad guy amongst them. But I think as storytellers, and that's all we are, we're creating rounded characters. People that you want, whether you root for the bad guys here, good guys there, that's the most important thing, isn't it?
Yes. Also, both the women characters were all the women characters were very strong and well drawn, and they weren't just bit part players; they were part of the action process. It was a good thing.
Yeah, I got two daughters. They'll kick my ass if I do any, terrible stereotyping there. So they have to be strong, and they're strong in my world anyway. I think it's unavoidable, and it's good, and it's a good thing. You have swords up on your bookshelf. I've got swords on my bookshelf too. Those ones are Austrian, and then there's a collection of Fairbairn sight daggers.
Oh, very nice.
And black powder pistols and fighting knives and old stuff.
Cool. You can't go wrong.
No.
With that sort of stuff. There's always one they're fun to play with, and there's a story behind them, and it's history. It's proper history.
The big silver-handled one up there's the one that stabbed Vladimir Putin, Savage Dog, that went straight through him. I don't know if you saw that one, did you? Savage Dog. That was a film I did with Scott Adkins. It was the first one that sort of swung me back after Beautiful Ones.
How long was the Triple Threat in the pipeline before it got greenlit? And
I don't know about that one. I believe the script was around a little, or the idea of putting, and it's Tiger's idea, He was the sort of brains behind all of this, pulling Iko, Tony Jaa, and himself together. So he had a couple of scripts that they'd been trying to sort of formulate into a film. I believe, he was a stuntman before he was an actor. I'd worked with him on Charlie's Angels, and he had brought in Chad Stahelski to potentially direct. I don't think they could agree on a script. I'm not sure what happened, but anyway, Arclight, who hired me, came on board, and I think there was a sunset on this whole deal. They were going to lose it if they didn't shoot before a certain date. So from calling me to actually arriving in Bangkok, and it was only a matter of weeks from my first call to discuss this, to go in and meet with Joey O'Brien, throw him some ideas for the initial script and what we were taking from the others, and my traveling to Thailand. I traveled before the script was completely finished, and I was on a plane there meeting the local crew and sort of scouting and pulling it apart. It was very, very, very quick turnaround. I flew directly from London, where I'd been shooting Accident Man, to Bangkok.
So you hit the ground running.
I did. I think we had a location scout the day after I landed. Which is how I like to be, by the way. That's living for me. Making movies is the most exciting job in the world. To direct them is the most incredible honor and the most wonderful, wonderful sort of blessing. You just don't screw it up. You put every ounce of yourself into it, because it's, a lot of people desperately want to do that. And if you take it for granted, it shows in the end product. You have to commit yourself, body and soul. From the moment you start pre-production through to wrap. Once you've wrapped, you can draw back a little bit, and you can start to rebuild your energy and your reserves, and you watch other movies, and you kind of sleep in late and all that kind of stuff. But certainly, if you're in pre-production or shooting, then your heart and soul, your body, every part of you, the fabric and fiber of your being is owned by that production. And certainly how it is for me. And I think if you'll talk to any other director of any sort of self-respect, that's how it is. If you enter it half-assed, the film will be half-assed. They don't make themselves. They really don't. And I think you have to continuously be sort of on your toes, thinking almost like a little bit of a gunfighter, because the potential threats to that movie come very, very fast from every direction, and it's mainly about sort of avoiding those and just steering this great sort of juggernaut through all of those potential risks. Do
you think everyone else stepped into that same front mind space in that same way?
Like it felt like I had a lot of really, really, good collaborators. Brian Pitt, who was one of the American producers who came out fantastic. My VP, Jonathan Hall, is just phenomenal. I mean, there was I saw him lugging lights and cables, and when he couldn't quite make himself understood in Thai and he was getting tired at the end of the day, he just picked things up and moved himself. And we had a lot of discussions on this one about how to shoot it. When you're faced with trying to capture, as I say, 9 of the greatest dancers in the world at the moment, and you're making this great musical number, the most important thing you can do is not move the camera phonetically to a point where it distracts from what's going on the screen. That would be sacrilege. You keep the camera movement very, very stately, very, very calm, and you let what's going on in front of the action, in front of the lens, be the motivator. You move slowly in or out, or it's lovely, gentle movements, but everything you're seeing is so dynamic and so powerful. It speaks for itself. And if you try and amplify that, you'll actually take away from the process. When we've all worked on second units, every one of us on the 150 crew have all been involved in it, and when you're working with a martial artist or an actor who can't do their own martial arts, who can't move very quickly, who isn't as physically skilled, that's when you move the camera quickly. That's when you cut very quickly. That's when you use lenses to cheat, to sleight of hand, like a magician playing cards. Those are the things you do when you have someone who can't perform. When you have performers who can and who are the very height of their game, they're the equivalent of a gold medalist Olympic athlete. When they're at that level, you draw back and you just let them do the hard work. You let them do the heavy lifting, and you make sure you capture it. And if you don't capture it, baby, then you should really consider doing something else. So that was the sort of onus that John and I talked about. How do we make this film, work and successful and really sing?
I think that it does come across as very, very said at the beginning of the very cinematic scale and the way it's presented. And I think that it comes down to your not moving it phonetically and letting the action speak for itself. I think that comes across in spades. So nice one. And one of the things that the previous interview with Scott talked about, and I think you've talked about as well, is piracy, and that how it's been hurting, particularly this end of the market, the action end of the market. What do you think? What do you think is being done and can be done at the moment to sort of prevent it?
Oh, I don't know. Just we've got to sort of make it known to the fans of this genre that they shouldn't illegally download, and I don't know how you reach them and how you hammer it into them. That every time they do that, they're damaging the very heroes, the very their religious cult idol Boyka is not going to be able to make any more Boyka movies because the Boyka movies keep getting downloaded for free, And, I bring that title up. It's a friend of mine, Isaac Florentine, who directed it, but they just brutalize it. It's, the 1.9 million viewers watch it as an illegal, with 14 of them paying to watch it. And it's just terrible. You've destroyed the very golden idol that you're so protective of, and it defies rational explanation. I don't watch downloadable movies. I don't rip films or pirate them. I mean, why should they? I don't get it. They're not expensive. Watch it on Netflix. Pay a couple of bucks, buy the DVD if you don't have access to. Go on eBay and order them. That's about the only thing. And then the second part is we got to make movies that deserve to be seen in the cinema, and that are fantastic and are well shot and have a cinematic grandeur to them, and that the audience feels they've got their $15, $20 worth, per ticket. It's expensive to buy a ticket now. It's expensive to buy the popcorn when you go to the theatre. You don't want to go and see some dodgy old, badly shot, badly acted movie. And unfortunately, there's too many of them like that. And so you stop wanting to go to the movie theatre because the last one you went to see was stank. So if we can make these films better and cooler and grandiose and worthy of being shown in the theatre, people will come and see them. I got bored of seeing action movies in the theatre because they all looked identical. Fight scenes all looked the same, and I felt the characters clearly couldn't do the martial arts. They obscurely, suddenly during the fight scene, the camera would go to the back of the head so that they could put the stunt double in, and I got bored of that. I don't want to. So. I think the onus is on, or the responsibility is on us as filmmakers as well to try and make these films as exciting as possible. And I think what ArcLight did with this, and Tiger and the original creative producers, by combining all these guys and putting them in one package, that's a hell of a thing. When I did my research for this one, when I was thinking about how to cover characters, I watched The Dirty Dozen, The Magnificent Seven, The Seven Samurai. I watched these ensemble movies that I grew up loving. The Great Escape, these pictures that they did in the 60s, 70s, 50s, and it's like, holy God, these are cool, man. The Professionals, these are really, really awesome films. And so it didn't take many to suddenly realize, this is an absolutely valid genre for the action film, to have an ensemble. People keep saying Expendables. Expendables was not a great movie. Let's go back another 20 years, and there you've got fucking great movies that were ensemble and action pieces. There's a behind the scenes for The Dirty Dozen, which is hilarious. You can see it on YouTube, but it was whilst I was doing my research, I realized that was actually very close to what we had in Bangkok, was our action men abroad. But those are the films that I was looking back to, and those are films that stood up as cinematic pieces. You'd want to go see those on the big screen. You didn't want to see The Magnificent Seven on TV. You wanted to see it on the big screen if you could. Same with The Great Escape. These were big, powerful movies that big characters, and they still stand up 100%. Great scores, well written, and I think. So that's the second part, is we have to make films that warrant being, an audience and force people to go to them because they want to see them that way. Even the laziest ones.
So taking that point on as a sort of come to a close almost, is the film's going to be a success. Following on from that, do you feel that there might be a triple threat too? No, I'm touching wood, yes, don't worry. And is there going to be a triple threat too if all goes well?
I would love there to be a triple threat too, and they could count me in a New York Minute. I'd be involved in that because I just love working with this team, and I think we could do the same thing again. We could bring in another group of really, really good antagonists and make something very, very special. I think it would be good to have a couple more female fighters in there. I think it would be good to have a couple more nations in there. I think there's something you could really do there. So there's been a little discussion on it. I haven't heard much, but you'll be the first to know.
I look forward to it. That'd be fantastic if there was. And maybe a bit of reincarnating going on. And in that same vein, as a sort of final wrap-up question, is where did Scott, when he was incarcerated and pulled out, he had a lovely hairpiece on. Where did that come from? And was it found in the jungle?
The hairpiece itself, yeah. I think it was shot that morning. It was still warm, or it might still have been breathing. Even I'm not sure. But yeah,
it was a face paint that just turned round.
Yeah, it's tricky with wigs because obviously they have a particular kind of wig, demand for a certain kind of hair type, and less demand for our Western hair as a wig over there. But,
it was convincing enough, but it did make me think. And it also had a slight sort of tongue-in-cheek quality to it. I thought might sort of added to it for me anyway. Anyway, I liked it. So
I think I hadn't seen the wig before that morning, and as Michael Jai White so interestingly noted, it was a lot of coverage that we had to do every day in that sequence particularly, and I think by the time he was ready in makeup and came to set, it was too late to make any changes. It would have been too late to take the wig off because they're pinned on. They take a long time. And I think at that point it was like, okay, let's commit to it. Let's do it. Let's make this work. And Scott does. He owns it.
Yeah, he did. He just looked like he'd been in the cellar. Look, he had been in there for a while and had a chance to play with a comb. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about Triple Threat that are any sort of questions I haven't asked that we'd like to air?
I really, really encourage people to see it on the big screen if at all possible. I think that's the way to see this picture. It's the way to enjoy it and the way to see these guys doing what they do so well. And as I say, you won't get the chance to see these guys in a film together again. And they do represent the best in movie kickers out there at the moment. You could say Jet Li, you could say Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen's pretty much retired from action, and Jet Li, was fantastic in his prime. But these guys are in their prime. They are, you're going to be hard pressed to repeat this again. Get out to the theatre, sit on the big screen, and support your local movie theatre.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. And when you're over in the UK, hopefully see you then. If not for a coffee, maybe a beer.
Sounds like an excellent plan, and thank you very much for your very smart questions.
Well, thank you for your brilliant answers, and thank you for making the film.
Thank you. I'll try and do it again. All right.
Please do.
Boss, take care.
And you. Thank you. Bye bye.